China doesn't have to do that because it is the beginning of the supply chain. They manufacture all of this stuff. So if we're talking about pagers, walkie-talkies, but remember also home solar systems, which means your toaster. You can do all of these devices can be laced with explosives. And so therefore, everything that we buy from China can be a weapon against the United States.
I want to ask you about Taiwan, because just a few days ago, we sent a jet over the Taiwan Strait. And the Navy's response, the Navy said we encountered foreign military forces. Apparently, China sent several jets to follow our jet. What do you make of that? Is that an escalation in what's going on in Taiwan?
Well, China says that the Taiwan Strait is sovereign Chinese water, where everybody else in the world says that it is international water.
Donald Trump has expressed mock surprise after Vladimir Putin appeared to endorse his rival Kamala Harris for the U.S. presidency. Speaking at a rally in the key swing state of Wisconsin, Mr. Trump told supporters he didn't believe Mr. Putin was serious and insisted he was the toughest candidate in his approach to Moscow.
Russia would have never happened if I were president. Attacking Ukraine would have never happened. Was it done with a smile, Ron? Was it done with a smile? I think it was done maybe with a smile. I don't know. Who the hell knows? Nobody's going to figure it out. They're about 19 steps ahead of us. But this whole Russia thing, nobody was tougher on Russia in history than Trump. And the person that knows that better than anyone is President Vladimir Putin. He knows it better than anyone. And I'll tell you what, I will have that war finished and done and settled before I get to the White House. As president-elect, I will get that done.
Well, good evening, good morning, wherever you are. It's Alex here at Reportify Media. And hello, of course, we have Scott Ritter in the house today. Good morning, everybody. Happy Monday morning, wherever you are on the East Coast or West Coast. I appreciate you waking up early and joining us today. Scott Ritter is coming on to the program. Scott, great to see you again. Busy man. You got a lot going on. How's it going in your neck of the woods there?
Well, everything's, okay. Working hard, trying to stop a nuclear war. Let's see if I'm lucky enough to be able to succeed.
Scott, we saw some pretty alarming news coming out of the Middle East here with, I'm sure you've heard about it, the pager incident and the walkie-talkie incidents. I mean, this is quite disturbing. I'm not sure if you've had some experience seeing this type of operation before. Is this something that took years in the making? Or is it just something where it caught a lot of people off guard here? Maybe your thoughts on that.
Well, the Israelis have been using tampered electronic devices to assassinate people for some time now. The first time that I became aware of it was in 1996 when they killed a Hamas bomb maker nicknamed the Engineer. And they were able to get a phone in his hands and have it called, and when he answered it, they monitored it. And as soon as he confirmed that he was on the line, they triggered the explosion, blew his head off. And they've used this similar tactic before. But these are, single events. They're not, a massive. There's a world of difference between these kind of, tampering and what they did with Hezbollah, because on the other one, they something's manufactured, enters the supply chain, and then the Israelis are able to, get a device, tamper it, reinsert it back into whatever purchasing cycle or electronics acquisition cycle the opposition, the adversary is using, and manipulate it so that this device appears in their hands. What they did here is far more clever and far more nefarious. They actually took over the manufacturing of a device, and and then were inserting these explosive, these tampered devices, which were tampered at the point of manufacture, and got them into the supply chain, and then manipulated the supply chain in such that they were able to become, a purchasing agent for Hezbollah, had enough confidence in the supplier to purchase this. This requires a heck of a lot of intelligence, a lot of preparation. You need to, this takes years to do. You've got to map this out perfectly. You've got to recruit people on the inside. You've got to build a covert manufacturing capability that mimics a legitimate, business enterprise. It has to fool everybody. My understanding is that they licensed the product out of Taiwan, built a shell company in Hungary, and I think they did the manufacturing in Bulgaria or something like that. But in doing this, you don't the first time off go, hey, Hezbollah, want to buy my pager? Because Hezbollah would say no. What has to happen is you have to have something there, and then you already have to get out there and compete. You have to put product out there, and then get in with Hezbollah and recruit somebody in Hezbollah or influence somebody in Hezbollah who is a purchasing agent. You have to maybe manipulate them psychologically to believe that their old electronics have been tampered with. And maybe what you do then is actually get a hold of some old electronics and show that they've been compromised, that Israel gathered intelligence from their compromise. And now there's a need to replace these. Maybe you even do this in a manner that creates some sense of urgency, meaning, oh my God, we need to do this now. Hey, boss, we've been using this Bulgarian supplier in the past, and I think we can get them to meet the need. And suddenly the phone call comes in, and the Mossad goes, oh yeah, we can fill that order. And next thing you know, pagers and things are being made and distributed. And then, the Israelis did what they did. I have to be honest, this to do something of this scope and scale is very expensive. A lot of time, effort, and resources went into this. It's a one-time shot. You're not going to get to do it again. And so for Israel to execute this operation the way they did without sufficient follow-through. I mean, this is the operation you use the day of the attack. All right, I'm sending the boys in. We're crossing the line of departure. We're closing with and destroying the Hezbollah enemy. Hezbollah's now massing, maneuvering, and pop, 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 pop. Everybody's pagers blow up. The radios blow up. Now there's confusion, and you attack with everything you have right then to exploit confusion and all that. That didn't happen, which tells me the Israelis were panicking. This was an act of desperation on the part of Israel, as opposed to, the way people, because literally there's no way in God's name, if I were the head of Mossad, I would have, if someone came up to me and said, you're going to put all these resources into this plan, and then we're going to pop it off and that's it. And I said, why? So you maimed a couple hundred, you wounded a couple thousand, maimed a couple hundred, killed a dozen for millions of dollars. How much effort? Now you've created, because remember, there's blowback. Forget the Chang, who sat there. Everything is now a threat. That's just stupidity. That's ignorance, and it exposes him for the xenophobe that he is and the ignorant man that he is. It's not Chinese electronics that are under attack here. Israel didn't penetrate the Chinese electronic market. They penetrated the Western electronic market. And it's Western electronics that are now, no one trusts them. No one can trust them. How could you ever trust a Motorola pager again? How could you ever trust any electronic device that comes from a Western supplier? Because Israel has now shown an ability to infiltrate the market, the product that's the most safe in the world right now, Chinese
Tell me.
products. I'd be dumped. I mean, if they allowed Huawei products to be used in the United States, this iPhone would get tossed. First of all, this is a walking, talking NSA, FBI listening device. They've infiltrated the iPhone and everything else. The whole company. They own the cloud. There's nothing secure about this device. Nothing at all. The fake, and it is fake, high encryption, the FBI will never be able to crack it. The FBI always cracks it, always cracks it. They just pretend they can't because they have to create confidence in this. So all the idiot drug dealers and criminals go out and get one. And then the FBI says, oh, well, we can't crack. They do. They own this company. They don't own Huawei. And if you want secure comms, if you want something that the Israelis can't make go boom, China. And that's the Israel in the West. They don't understand the crippling effect that this attack will have on the consumer market, electronic market globally.
As a weapons inspector, I mean, where would you start your investigation back on the source of this? Like, what kind of things would you be looking for? Of course, after this attack happened, is there any identifiable things on these devices that could be tracked back to maybe where the source is?
Well, the device itself, has, they should have serial numbers. So you start off with the device, is it who it says it is? Is it Motorola, Apollo, manufacturers, the company, it's licensed to them. Here's the serial number. And you just begin tracking. You go back, call up Apollo. Did you do this? No, we sold the license to a Hungarian company. Okay. And you start there. How much? Because we sold the license to a Hungarian company. That means somebody gave Apollo money. Where'd that money come from? And now we start working the money trail. It came from an account. Now we start working that account. In today's day and age, there's cameras everywhere. People don't move without being seen. You find the date of the transaction. Then I just start finding cameras. I track people in and out of banks. I track people into countries. I start building databases of the flow of people. We did this with the Iraqis during the 90s. It wasn't today. It's a lot easier. Back then it was a little bit more work, but you start reverse engineering this and you get the flow of people. You find out where they are, you establish relationships, and next thing you know, you've broken the code. And I think this one, the Israelis again aren't as smart as they are. I'm fairly certain that by the time this is done, a legitimate investigator will be able to identify by name every Israeli involved in this, or every Mossad agent who's involved in this. And then you're going to end up compromising entire networks that have been put in place, because to build this up, remember, this is the equivalent of what we call a non-official cover. The covered Israeli intelligence officer in Budapest is not running this operation. It's somebody that the Mossad has planted in Europe long-term for something just like this. But this is worth it if you pop it off and you attack and you annihilate Hezbollah. That's what it. They just compromised entire European networks that are going to take years to rebuild because they're compromised. I'm telling you right now, and the Israelis know this. A qualified and competent counterintelligence service will be able to reverse engineer this thing. Absolutely no problem. We'll end up getting the phones. We'll geolocate the phones. We'll get cars that they rented. We'll get the houses they entered. We'll get everything. And again, because intelligence services are inherently sloppy over time, they'll have made mistakes, and you'll find money trails and all that. And this has the potential of compromising everything the Mossad was doing in Europe. This is the dumbest thing Israel's ever done. Literally, they've lost the world. Nobody supports this. I mean, there's a handful of idiots in America. Yeah, good stuff. Nobody. It's a crime. It's a literal crime. It's an act of terrorism. Israel has certified itself as a terrorist state, as if they already hadn't because of Gaza. But then from an intelligence standpoint, they just lost everything. And, here's the other thing, because the Israelis understand this as well. Understand that when a network is compromised, I wouldn't go arrest people. I'd just wait. If you tried to extract them, who knows? But I would just let you think that you're safe. But now I own you. Now I'm following you. And everything you do now. So here, for the Mossad guys out there, this. I'm in your head right now. Because see, you're going to be talking. Do we have to pull everybody out? And some people are saying, well, no, we have good OPSEC. They'll never get to where we are. We will. Somebody will. Somebody who doesn't like you will. And they're going to follow you. They're going to track you. And if you don't pull those assets out and get them back to safety, they're going to be, they're already compromised, and everything you do going forward will be compromised. And at the right time and place, the adversary will take action. It will be decisive in nature. That's the stupidity of what the Israelis did. This is really one of the dumbest things an intelligence service could ever do, because all the risk that got into that, everything that you potentially exposed by running an operation of this scope and scale, this is huge. This is a lot of money. This isn't a briefcase of money. This is a lot of money. And remember, they're supposed to be looking as if they're real. And so you have auditors out there. You don't want to move around with cash and all. There's going to be front companies. You're going to be the Israelis exposed their entire money laundering operation in Europe as they move money around. And stupid. For what?
Wasn't
A headline. That's it.
Yeah, it was quite a big headline. But the thing is
It's
that
over. It's over.
Yeah,
No one's talking about pagers today. They're all talking about bombs and missiles and rockets. No one's talking about pagers because it turned out to be, again, some people got hurt, but it had zero impact on the big picture. It was a headline grabbing thing. That's why I tell you, it was an act of desperation done by the Israeli government for domestic political consumption.
But now, where does there's two parts to where I'm kind of concerned on where this could go. One is, as you say, the Western supply chain is going to come under heavy scrutiny here. I mean, it doesn't matter what type of electronics come out of there. People are going to say, wait a minute, how can I protect myself? Am I walking around with something that could potentially go pop? How many more of these devices are out there? I mean, if you are the OEM, the original equipment manufacturer of this product, even if you're not involved, your business is gone. That's the first one. And the other one I'm concerned about, or kind of have a question about, is didn't anybody maybe have one of these that need to be serviced or something and went to a service center and, as people do, they have iPhones that maybe malfunction or maybe something doesn't charge right. And they take it in to get it serviced. And somebody could have easily said, like, hey, man, this thing it's got explosives in it. I mean, was it?
Well, again, I think the Israelis, on the second part, the Israelis are clever enough to understand that you have sniffers. You travel in the United States, you travel overseas. Your stuff goes through security devices. They're not just X-rays, but they scan it in ways to find explosive. So what the Israelis did was find a way to disguise the explosive in a battery. Maybe the battery is clad in a way that that prevents a sniffer from gaining access. It's sealed. The density of the material is designed to mimic that of the battery itself, so that under X-ray you wouldn't be able to discern things. Because my understanding is that the batteries were the bombs, not the devices. There's the lithium batteries in there that had been impregnated with this RDX, and then by sending a certain signal, they caused the system to draw on the batteries heavily too soon. And then the battery achieved a certain heat or activity level that triggers the explosion. So so you have all the pagers, and then the Israelis hack in and send this signal, and all the pagers overactive, and then pop, 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 off they go. I'm fairly certain, I can say this with about 100% certainty, that more than one pager didn't go off, and that that Hezbollah has been able to withdraw this. Not just Hezbollah, but foreign intelligence. Look, if I were CIA, I'd be tasking the embassy in Beirut, get me one of these damn pagers. We need to find out what the hell's going on, because it's now a global security issue. You can take down an airliner, you can take down a train, you can take down. I mean, you can assassinate people with this. So you need to find out, and there were enough devices out there that didn't go off. But you mentioned a point. You say, could somebody brought this in and all that stuff? Yeah. What if I brought it in and and it's now the technician, innocent man, just trying to earn a living, is sitting there and he's looking at it and he put it in, doing a check, and all of a sudden, boom, you just killed an innocent man. What if I've got the pager on my pocket and I'm walking with my wife and my daughter pushing a baby stroller? And the girl goes, "Daddy, your pager." Boom, she's dead. I'm wounded. My wife might be dead. The baby might be dead. This is terrorism. This is terrorism. It's indiscriminate. You have no way of controlling. At least in the past, the Israelis would monitor a phone call. Ring, ring, ring. Hello? Yeah. Is this Scott Ritter? Yeah, it's Scott Ritter. Boom! There goes my head, because I confirmed that I'm Scott Ritter on the other end of the phone. And the explosive is such that it just takes off my head. It's not going to kill anybody around. Here, these things, they went off. You have no way of knowing who's handling it, because it's not a targeted thing. It's not like you called up, Scott Ritter's pager. Call up Scott Ritter's pager. No, you called them all, the entire thing, and they all went off. It's murder. It's an act of terrorism. People should be arrested, put on trial, convicted, and put away for life. That's how horrible this was. Now you get to the first part about Western supply chains. Good. I don't mean to be mean here. People's jobs depend on this. But if Motorola never sold another product, good. If iPhone goes out of business, good. If every Western electronics, good. Because then they'll blame. Because remember, it's all about the economy. We sit here and pretend, oh, we care about the people in Palestine. Oh, we care about the humanity. We don't give a damn about humanity. We don't care. We proved that when Hind Rajab was killed crying on a phone while an Israeli tank approached her and pumped her full of machine gun bullets. Oh, we care about people. We don't care at all. We'll let them slaughter 6-year-old girls. We'll let them murder infants, pregnant women, innocent men, between 40 and 186, 89,000 Palestinians have been killed. And we don't give a flying you-know-what. We don't. We pretend to, but we don't, because we're not doing anything. When I say we, there's people demonstrating, not enough, and it's not having an impact. It's not moving the needle at all politically here in the United States on this election. All the candidates, with the exception of Jill Stein, are out there screaming pro-Israel stuff. Donald Trump, Kamala Harris, RFK Jr., man who I like and respect. He's pro-Israel. He's wrong on this issue. So is Tulsi Gabbard, somebody I also like and respect. So I don't want to hear about, how we care about the Palestinians. We don't care about the Palestinian people. You know what we care about? Money. We care a lot about money. That's all we care about. And the only way this anything good can come from this is if the world rejects Western electronics right now. It brings to the brink of bankruptcy these Western things. And now maybe Israel will be held to account. Now the United States will step in and go, it was all fun and games until you caused a couple multi-billion-dollar companies to collapse. Now we're mad. Now we're angry. See, now we're going to step in and make you change, not because we give a damn about the Palestinian people. We don't. We care about our bottom line, our money. So the more Western electronic companies that are impacted by this, the better, because that's the only way you're going to get people to really put pressure on Israel, because Israel's hurting bottom lines right now. Killing Palestinians doesn't hurt anything. It doesn't even hurt sensibilities. It should, but there's so many crocodile tears out there of people saying, oh, I care about the Palestinians. I care. No one cares about the Palestinians. Not really. I mean, even me, I'm going to call myself out. I say all these words, but at the end of the day, I get a lot of people coming at me saying, why aren't you more active? Well, because I'm trying to stop a nuclear war. So you're putting nuclear war above the Palestinian people. You're damn right I am. Now you know my priorities. You can condemn me if you want to. You have every right to. But I'm being honest with you. The Palestinian people come third in my list of things I give a damn about on the global geopolitical scale. Number one is stopping a nuclear war. Why? Because if there's a nuclear war, it just doesn't matter, does it? Oh, the Palestinian people, we're all dead. So if I'm ever going to be able to do something for the Palestinian people, I have to stop a nuclear war. 2, free speech. The one way we can help the Palestinian people here in the United States is to use our free speech rights, our right of assembly, to protest, to speak out, to educate, to inform. But that's under frontal assault by the Department of Justice. Simply saying that I support the Palestinians is now being called hate speech. And people are trying to pervert the First Amendment to say that hate speech is criminalized. So you want me to help the Palestinian people? Can't do it if I can't talk. Can't do it if I can't talk. You can't do it if you can't assemble. So guess what? I'm going to defend free speech. Got to. And if I can stop a nuclear war and I can make sure that we have free speech, then I can move on to helping the Palestinian people. But I'm only one person. There's only so much I can do. Now, I support the people out there who are out there, getting the sweat equity in, doing what it takes to support the Palestinian people. But it's not working. It's not working at all. It's having zero impact on this country, especially in this election year. I had hoped that we'd come through the summer, come into the fall, college campuses would erupt once again, and we'd have the kind of disruption of American life that we had in the spring. I was like, yeah, it's not happening. They've beaten us because they're attacking free speech. People are scared because you go out there, you get arrested, you lose your college education, you can't get a job, the economy. So the best way to help the Palestinian people right now, stop buying Western electronics. Make these companies go bankrupt. And when people say, why aren't you buying it? Well, because Israel weaponized them. Israel turned them into, I can't trust them anymore. You get enough people to do that, now the government will go call up Israel, go, you can't ever do that again because you've just ruined this. Otherwise, Israel got away with it. And if people keep buying these damn phones, buying these pagers, buying those electronics, Israel got away with it.
Scott, I want to bring us to another topic here. There were some comments coming out of Russia from, I would gather it has to do with the Visa and Immigration Department. They were stating that they're open to look for a more friendlier visa option as well as a resident option for foreigners from countries like United States, Canada, Australia, making it easy for people to reside in Russia. I know that some people might find that comical, but in today's world, if you have a country that is open and welcoming you and making it quite easy to move to that country, the more I turn on YouTube, the more foreigners I'm seeing move to Russia. Now, if I started talking about this around my kitchen table in Canada, where I'm from, people would think I'm barking mad. But you're a guy that has been to Russia. You've been to many parts of it. You understand the country. Could this be an attractive offer to someone that may be in a part of their life where, we've moved on with business here a lot? A lot of stuff is done online now. A lot of stuff people do digital nomad. Is Russia onto something here? Is it a country that could potentially attract Westerners?
Well, I mean, as Western society devolves and starts to break down, and if people can learn about Russia, it may be an attractive option to go to Russia. Russia has what's called traditional family values. There's many people in the West who are rejecting the wokeness of society today. I've been to Russia several times. Beautiful place, but let me throw some cold water on this right now. Let's not pretend that the Russian offer isn't attached to politics. All right. First of all, Russia has a huge immigration problem, primarily from Central Asia. Now, the people they claim they're trying to attract are people with shared values, probably Christians, traditional family values, etc. But there is an immigration problem. And one of the big keys there is the inability of many immigrants from Central Asia to effectively integrate into Russian society. Language is an issue, culture is an issue, etc. And so, one of the things about this new program is that they've relaxed the language requirement, so you don't have to speak the Russian to get your residency permit and all that kind of stuff, which on the surface is attractive. But let me also give you my feeling about the Russians. They're deeply nationalistic, and I'm not talking about Adolf Hitler kind of nationalistic. They're Russians, and they're real Russians, and they love Russia. And they will fight and defend Russia. You know who Russians respect? People who fight and defend their own countries. Russians hate quitters. They don't like quitters. They don't like people who don't stand for anything. That doesn't mean that Russians won't welcome people with open arms. They will. They will, of course, because the Russians are a very welcoming people. But I'll just give you, my case. I've made a hard position here that I'm in America forever because I'm an American, and this is my country, and I'm going to fight for my country. And that means that I fight foreign enemies and domestic enemies. And right now I'm in a huge domestic battle for the soul of America. People are like, Scott, why don't you go to Russia? Superficially attractive. I mean, I love Russia. I love being in Russia. The Russian people are wonderful. I could spend a lifetime traveling in Russia. And who knows, maybe I will. There's just so much to learn, so much beauty to see, so many new people to meet. It's just a wonderful place. But I'm an American. I'm not a Russian. And if I went to Russia, what am I? I'm somebody who ran away from his country, somebody who turned his back on his country. See, Russians will never understand that. See, Russia's been a nation that's had a lot of problems. And in Russia, they have disdain for the Russians that left. In the 90s, the people that fled, they're like, yeah, well, you quit. All the oligarchs who took their money out and got their riches, Putin's like, stay, leave. You abandoned us when we needed you most. The Russians respect the people that stayed there, that fought, that made Russia what it is today, that went through that struggle. Those are the Russians that are Russian. And so now you're a Russian that did that, who didn't abandon their country. You fought for your country. And now you're going to welcome people who are what? Abandoning their countries. You see where I'm getting at here, Alex? It's, I think that it's being done it's real. You can go. I'm sure people will do it. And I'm sure that many of them will have positive experiences. But I would be careful because while the Russians may not say it to your face, I can promise you that in the Russian-only Banya, when they're talking about the person that fled their country, came in, there's more respect for the person that stayed to defend their country and fight for their country. That's where the respect lies, than the person who ran away. Because the Russians had too many people run away from Russia, and they don't respect those people. And you can't have it both ways. You can't say, well, it's bad for a Russian to flee Russia when Russia was in problems, but it's okay for you to flee your country and come here. It is okay, and the Russians will treat them well, but I just think that there's a lot more propaganda to this project than is being talked about. Because on the surface, it sounds like a great deal, and it is a great deal. It's real. I'm not saying it's fake. I'm saying it's real. But what I am saying is that the idea that you're going to just automatically blend in with Russian society and be one with the Russian people, you'll never be one with the Russian people. Because you're not Russian and you ran away from your home to make a home in a country that despises people who ran away from their home.
Okay, that's an interesting way to look at it. There are countries out there that I think for most part, some people can immigrate to and, for work or for maybe a passion or a love for a certain country. Maybe they're not necessarily, wanting to just abandon their country. That's my thoughts are like, for example, let's say you have, let's talk about Trump for a moment here. Okay. And I think, the other night I was sitting down there talking to some people, and they always ask me, you know, who would you vote for? And first of all, I'm not an American. I can't vote. I can give my opinion, but I can't vote. I'm not a U.S. taxpayer. I'm not a, you know, I don't live in the United States. I'm not a passport holder. So I can only give my opinion. But here's where, you know, I heard a song. There was a new song. I guess it was made for Trump. It was called "I'm a Fighter."
Yeah.
And I
It's doing
watched,
quite well now too.
yeah, I watched this video, and I couldn't help to be pretty moved by it, because, and whether the audience who's watching this program now likes Donald Trump or Kamala Harris or, you know, whoever their choice is, what I'm struggling with, and I think I'm getting what you're saying here, you know, here's a man, and I'm talking about Trump now, who had everything, He had celebrity status. Okay. Not everybody wants that, but he had it. He had a business, whether it's in hospitality or at one point in the, you know, big days of gambling. Then he was a real estate tycoon in one of the most famous cities in the world. And he decided to become the president of the United States. They tried to impeach him twice. They've gone after him legally. Thank God he has the money to defend himself. They've tried to assassinate him twice. And here's a guy that has probably lost a fortune being the president of the United States. What happened to America to put this guy in this? How can you treat a person like that? Forget about what people think about Donald Trump. What on earth is a nation doing to a guy that is actually, at least from what I can see, trying to get that country back on its feet? I would like your thoughts on that.
Sure. Before I get that, I just want to say one thing. You talked about people going to other countries.
Yeah.
Didn't abandon. Let me make it clear. If I had been offered a job as a, you know, adjunct professor, a visiting professor, you know, in Moscow back in the day, I might have taken that job. I might have even relocated my family to Moscow, and I might have fallen in love with Moscow, and I might have bought a home in Moscow, and I might have applied for residency in Moscow, but I'm still an American. You see the difference? I still go home to my country. I still vote in my elections. I haven't abandoned my country. I've just fallen in love with another place. There's expatriates everywhere, and I have no problem with that. You know, it's to me, it's just like somebody from New York going to Hawaii and going, wow, Hawaii, I want to stay here the rest of my life. That's okay. You know, you still go back and visit your friends. You go back to where you came from. You're not abandoning New York. You just found a really cool place you like to live. So I'm not saying that Scott Ritter could never have moved to Russia, and I'm not saying Scott Ritter would never, ever move to Russia. What I'm saying is Scott Ritter will never abandon America. That's the difference. See, the visa requirements, the way they're written up right now, is basically people saying, I'm abandoning this failed nation. I'm going to this new opportunity, etc. That's a different psychological equation than I've been given this wonderful opportunity. Wow, what a place. I love this place. I'd like to learn more about this place. I want to learn more about this people. I'd like to live here for a while, maybe for the rest of my life. There's Americans who live in Europe all over the place. You live in China. You haven't abandoned Canada, I don't imagine. There's difference between that and saying I'm fleeing my country to a better place. It's like, the original the Pilgrims. They were fleeing a country to a better place to live, which is okay.
And there's also a lot of servicemen that are, in the military around the world. They're still Americans if they're in Germany or in
they marry a German
Japan.
girl and they stay in Germany and they love Germany. That's okay. That's cool.
Yeah.
Marry a Turkish girl, stay in Turkey. Marry, I wouldn't marry an Iraqi. I'm not saying don't marry Iraq. I wouldn't stay in Iraq right now. It has to get a little bit better. But no, that happens all the time. People travel around the world. There's people who come. My wife is Georgian. She married me.
I didn't know that. Huh.
Yeah, she's Georgian. Married me. She lives in America. We raised our family here. She's an American citizen, but she never abandoned Georgia. Georgia's in her heart. She travels back to Georgia. If you say anything that's critical of Georgia, she turns on you like a banshee and rips you apart. She loves her country, the place of birth. It doesn't mean she's a disloyal American. She's a very loyal American. She's an American citizen. She lives here, pays her taxes, all that good stuff. But she's Georgian. She never, ever turned her back on her country. That's okay. I'm just saying that the way this visa thing is set up right now in Russia, the implication is you're running away from your country, which is your choice. But I'm just telling you, and again, the Russian people can tell me I'm wrong, but I've had many Russian people tell me I'm right. The Russian people have gone through too much in the last 50 years, too much to have respect for people who wilt under less pressure than they did. They survived the end of the Soviet Union. They survived the decade of the 90s. They survived the difficult decade of trying to rebuild from 2000 to 2010. And now they're starting to get the dividends, reap the dividends. And so Russia's a wonderful place to live. Don't get me wrong. Russia's a wonderful place to live. God, you could do far worse than Russia. And Russia's not bad. I mean, I'm not saying that Russia's bad. You could do worse. I'm saying Russia's wonderful. It comes as close to utopia in some instances as you can possibly imagine. It's great. People will love living there. I'm just saying that when you come to Russia with your bags having abandoned your country, you might not. The Russians will never be rude to you. They'll always welcome you in. They'll be polite. But I'm just saying in the back of their minds, these are the people that don't have a soft spot in their heart for the Russians who abandoned Russia. Mm. And I have a hard time saying and believing that they would suddenly go, but you abandoned your country. That makes you a Chelovek in our mind. No, it makes you somebody who abandoned your country. We're still welcome in. We're glad you're here, but you're never going to be one of us. That's all I'm saying. Now, before I answer, what was you want to get my insight on?
Yeah. So I was sitting with a group of people the other day, and you have people that just make these crazy comments without even any backing, like, this guy he shouldn't win. He screwed the country up. Just crazy comments. And
about Trump. What happened to America? How did they abandon Trump?
Well, I mean, I'll rephrase it one more time. And thank you so much for going over that Russian thing, because there's a lot of people even watching that have never actually left even Canada. I mean, half of my family hasn't even left Canada to travel. So it's good that we cover, what it's like to be in other countries as a citizen of our own country. And I appreciate your insight on that. And that will, definitely help a lot of people really that have maybe this presumption of, I'm going to go over there and leave everything behind and not worry about anything because the grass is greener over here. Like you said, it's good to have that excitement about a country, but you're still you're still your nationality in that country. And it's just great insight. And I appreciate that, Scott. What I'm saying now about Trump is, here's a guy who was at the top of his game, real estate tycoon, gambling casino owner, celebrity all over television, had the time of his life. He didn't need any of this. And in the last 8 years, he's been, in court, I don't know how many times, been impeached, attempted to be impeached twice, attempted assassination a couple of times in the last few months. I mean, what's going on?
What's going on is that the establishment is rebelling against the populist. That's what's going on. Trump is suffering the fate of all populists. uh, the establishment, the government, the system turns on you. Because as a populist, you're saying, I can bypass all of the systems, the systemic, mechanisms that are in place to control a country. You don't get to be the political and economic elite because you wake up one morning and go, oh, I want to be one of the political economic elite. You're either born into it, or you have to play the game. You start at the university level, you sell your soul for whatever degree you want. Don't get too critical. Just go through, become that cookie cutter graduate. Then you go on and then you get that entry level job. Then you get that advanced degree, and then you get the intermediate job, and you just play the game the whole time until eventually, if you've made it up the pyramid, they hand you the key and the door opens up and here you go. It doesn't matter what you do, whether it's politics or whether it's business or whether it's government. You have to play the game, or else you don't get promoted. And so the people that play the game and make it to the top, the senators, every senator wants to be a president. The governors, every governor wants to be president. Congressmen, they want to be senators and then become president. Business executives, they want to get invited on the boards, being brought in, get an ambassadorship. Who knows? They've all paid their dues, and now they want to reap their rewards by being at the top of the pyramid. And here's Donald Trump, who did his thing outside of that. He was the establishment. He donated money. He held parties. He says, I gave money to everybody, the Clintons, everybody. But then he decided that he was going to take a shortcut. Just say, I'm going to be president. And the system went, no, you're not. And look at 2016, 2015, 2016. He not just humiliated the Republican Party, he broke it. They put 17 of their top establishment people up against him, and he crushed them all in the primaries, destroyed them. Then he went on and he beat the biggest political machine in the history of the United States, the Democratic Party. Beat them, won the election. And they hated him for that. They hated him for it. And they attacked him during his entire presidency. They betrayed him. They stabbed him in the back. They sabotaged him. They sought to impeach him. They created impossible situations. Many people believe that they stole an election from him. I just want to point out to all the people out there that, no, they didn't. Perceptions are more powerful than reality. And tens of millions of Americans perceive that the election was stolen. And you also have to ask yourself, in most cases where there's smoke, there's fire. These perceptions are drawn from people seeing a lot of smoke. And now you're trying to tell them there's no fire. And you won't even engage on the topic. I mean, these election deniers, no one will even try and give them credit, even though slowly but surely, the narrative that this was the cleanest election in the history of elections is falling apart as we find out fraud here, there, and we find out, as the Democrats themselves admit, while they may not have done it unconstitutionally, they did it extra constitutionally. What I mean by that is outside of the constitutional processes, and they admit it. Time magazine wrote an article about it back in December of 2020, admitting it. Google and everybody else conspired to ensure that Donald Trump would never be elected president. Last time I checked, is Google part of the electoral process? When we have people conspiring to deceive the American people, to do a sleight of hand, to exploit the pandemic, to manipulate the election system in a way that favors the Democrats, whether it's fraudulent or not, that's not the way a functioning democracy should work. You shouldn't be able to deceive it. You shouldn't be able to manipulate it. It should be a straight up, people go and vote. But so here we have Trump today, making a run at the presidency, and it scares the hell out of the system. So the system's attacking. Look, view America as a human body, and Trump is a virus that's coming in saying, I'm gonna, it's one of those parasites that comes in and takes over your body and makes it do what it doesn't want to do. And the immune system now is fighting it. the Democrats and the Republicans and the establishment are the immune system. Trump is the foreign body coming in saying, I'm going to make this better. Maybe he can. I mean, I'm not here dismissive of Trump. I'm just saying that he is an outside agent inserted into a system where he is poison to the system, that if he succeeds, the system is going to fail. And so the system is attacking him using all the weapons available, up to and including assassination. Because if you don't think that there is U.S. government involvement, that there isn't U.S. government involvement in both these assassination attempts, you're blind. I'm not saying it was ordered from the top. I'm not saying it wasn't. What I'm saying is the system made both these possible. And they were both supposed to succeed, and they didn't. The first one was an assassination. If Trump hadn't hiccuped or whatever the hell he did to move his head, he'd be dead. So it was an assassination attempt that should have succeeded. The dude fired 5 shots. The first 3 should have all been lethal, blown Trump's head right off his body. You know, a 5.56 millimeter round coming in, hitting this little watermelon we got here. Boom, it would have been pink mist, baby. America would have been traumatized for life because we would have watched live on TV a man's head explode. That's what should have happened. The assassins who planned this thing, and it wasn't just this lone gunman. Hell, you don't get ladders, you don't walk around, you don't fly drones, you don't have encrypted this, that, and the other thing. Boom. He should be dead, and he didn't die. And now the system's like, how do we do this? How do we do this? And so they got this other dude. He's not the last. There's going to be another assassination attempt against Trump, probably, maybe 2. They're not going to quit until they kill him. That's the reality of it. They're going at him in the courts. They're not going to quit until they convict him. Of what? What did he do? You know, he's a felon. No, he's a businessman in New York. None of that is a crime anywhere else to anybody else. And if you're an American and you don't understand that, you're not much of an American. To see how the system has been weaponized by the establishment to go after. This is the antibodies. These are the white blood cells coming in to attack the infection, and Trump is the infection. Because if Trump gets elected, I wouldn't want to be in the establishment, because he will do things. Because this time the first time he thought he had to play the game for 4 years because he wanted to get reelected. So he went to the establishment and thought he could pick good people in the establishment. There are no good people in the establishment. The establishment is corrupt. The establishment exists for the establishment alone. That's it. Call it deep state. Call it whatever you want. You know, it's there, the blob. So now look who he surrounded himself with. You know, RFK Jr. Well, he ain't establishment. That's why they're going after him too. Tulsi Gabbard. She ain't establishment. And I think you're going to see that he's going to be surrounding himself with a different kind of people. And he only has 4 years. He's fearless. If he gets elected, he's fearless. And he will come in and use, you know, it's interesting because the establishment has always been about the unitary executive, about empowering the presidency. But that's okay if the president comes from the establishment. What now that you've created this veritable dictatorship, because that's what America is. The American president is a dictator. There's very few checks and balances on the president of the United States. Donald Trump comes in with this unitary power that's only supposed to be wielded by a member of the establishment. What happens when he shuts down the FBI? What happens when he dissolves the National Security Division of the Department of Justice? What happens when he starts arresting people for treason? The establishment's finished. You know, I'm not saying that this is good. I'm not saying this is the way it should be. I'm just saying what happens when. This is why the Democrats are so scared, because there is so much resentment amongst a significant part of the American population about the establishment, because the establishment only serves the top of the pyramid. It doesn't serve the base. The base is there to prop up the top of the pyramid. Now, you should be throwing crumbs down there to the base to keep them happy, like the Romans opened up the Colosseums and let them, you know, watch people get slaughtered. We have TV and an entertainment industry that is designed to dumb everybody down. Oh God, but they made a mistake. They created Twitter, and now they have social media, and people can have podcasts. And there's a whole alternative media now that the mainstream can't support. So what do? Criminalize it. Criminalize it. Find somebody who's saying things that you don't agree with. There's two interesting terms that are out there right now that the U.S. government has injected into the jurisprudence of free speech. One is disinformation. Now, Alex, you and I believe, come from an era when if you said, well, you're putting out disinformation, that means you're lying. It means you're not telling the truth. Nope. According to the U.S. government, disinformation does not hinge on whether or not it's accurate or not. Disinformation is disinformation because you're against the official narrative of the U.S. government. It's disinformation if it runs against the official narrative. This is insanity. And they're criminalizing disinformation. Now, the other term that's come out is called malinformation. A little bit different spin on this. Again, malinformation isn't about it being inaccurate. No, the truth can and often is malinformation. Malinformation is information that's inconvenient to the government, and they're criminalizing that. This is where we are in America today. And that's how the system's fighting back. They're fighting back to shut me down. This is why the FBI came here. I didn't commit a crime. Everything I did was permitted by free speech. Not just permitted by free speech, but according to the founding fathers, encouraged by free speech. Because free speech doesn't exist to enable people to become cheerleaders of the government. I mean, you have every right to. Free speech allows you to do that. We have free speech so people can criticize the government, hold the government to account. That's what empowers this constitutional republic, gives it that democratic edge. But the establishment fears it because the establishment has deviated so far off track that nothing it does is based in fact or honesty. They're about shaping narratives, about dictating outcomes, ignoring the people. And Trump now is tapping into this resentment. Notice what he's talking about defending, free speech. RFK Jr.'s made that one of his big things. So is Tulsi Gabbard, free speech. And it resonates for people who are being told now they're not perfect. I mean, I'll just show the imperfection of Donald Trump. I'm for free speech. Are you, Donald? Then why the hell are you talking about imprisoning and punishing people who are demonstrating against Israel? Because that's free speech, baby. So there's, Donald Trump's got a lot of problems, a lot of hypocrisy, a lot of inconsistencies, but at least he's saying, I defend free speech. RFK Jr. is up there. His free speech is in opposition to the vaccine mandate. He's spoken out against that and against vaccines. Whether you like him, agree with him or not, doesn't matter. Free speech allows him to do that, but the government has sought to shut him down because he's inconvenient. So he's out there. Tulsi Gabbard, again, she speaks out against the bad foreign policy. She's being, they're trying to shut her down. TSA had people following her, treating her as some sort of a hostile foreign asset. FBI came to my house. Who the hell knows what they're going to try to do next? This is not because we're doing anything wrong. It's because we're doing what we're supposed to do under the First Amendment, speak out in opposition to what we believe is bad policy. But this now has become criminalized by an establishment that fears it. They fear it because we're speaking truth to power. They don't like that. That's what Donald Trump is heading up right now, this insurgency within America of people who have an idea of what they want America to be, whether it's a good idea or bad. I'm not here making judgment. I'm just saying there's a whole bunch of people out there that have an idea of what they want America to be. They want it to be great again, whatever that means. And they look at what's happening in America and they say, that's not the direction we want to go. But when they try and affect change, using the system the way their granddaddy did and the way their daddy did, it didn't work. It doesn't work. It's not going to work. And then comes this man, Donald Trump, that says, I can be your white knight. I can be the guy that makes all those changes. And they go, sign me up. They don't want to look at the small print. They don't want to get in there and they're looking at big brush. You're telling me that you can change this system. I can make America great again. Sign me up. I don't want to know the details. You're just telling me that all this crap over here that doesn't work that will in the establishment will never come to me and talk. Hillary Clinton lost 2016. I remember I was playing golf, a lot of golf back then. I was physically able to at the time, and I was a member of a nice little country club, and they had a very progressive, pro-Democrat clientele, heavily Jewish. But it was a great golf course. That's why I joined. I didn't care about all that other stuff. But I'm sitting there having lunch with them, and this is in the summer, and it's right after Bernie. Bernie got screwed by the Democrats.
Yeah.
And I was a big Bernie
Did he
guy.
ever?
Yeah. I'm like, Bernie's going to change the establishment. That's what I like. And Trump, I didn't like because he was, because he's Trump. I was like, no, Bernie, yes, Trump, no. But then we're talking, and I at that time I was very active in the fire department, and I had gone all over the country attending fire conferences, doing ride-alongs, meeting people, trying to educate myself about the fire service. And I had met firefighters from across the country, and firefighters tend to be what I call conservative Democrats. They're fairly progressive. What I've always told people is, if you want to know the true status of your community, talk to your firefighters. They'll tell you where all the homeless are. They'll tell you where the drug addicts are. They'll tell you where the prostitutes are. They'll tell you, where the rich people who abuse alcohol are. Why? Because they respond to all of this stuff. They can map out your community and say, yep, here it is. They know their community like the back of their hand because they're there to defend their community, to protect, to save their community. And many of them see the bad things and they want to do better. And so they have, fairly progressive, opinions on policies. But what I saw from 2012 to 2016 is they all felt abandoned. First of all, with Hillary, she never came to talk to them. She never came to talk to them. Nobody from the Democratic Party came to talk to them. They were ignored, and they felt, because many of them are in the Rust Belts. They're in these, these are the firefighters who are in these communities that are falling apart because the economy is collapsing, et cetera, and their society is getting worse. They're going on more calls, seeing more people going over to opioid addiction, seeing more back alley abortions, seeing more, suicides, things of that nature, just watching society fall apart. And they're like, hey, we need help. We need help here. And Hillary called them deplorables. And they're like, we're not deplorables. We just need help, and you're not going to help us. Donald Trump comes in and they go, yeah. So I was sitting there surrounded by all these country club Democrats. They said, who do you think is going to win? I said, Donald Trump. They said, no, he can't win. You don't even like him. I said, you didn't ask me who I liked. First of all, if you want to put Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton up there, I despise her with a passion for a reason, because she lied to us about weapons of mass destruction, got us involved in war. She's the scum of the earth. Donald Trump, I just disagree with his policies. I can't say I despise him because I don't know him. I'm telling you that in traveling parts of the country where the Democrats always were winning, that Hillary isn't visiting them. She's not talking to them. She's not resonating with them. They feel abandoned. They're going to vote Trump. It's going to be a very close election. It's going to come down to a number of states. All of those states have Rust Belt aspects to them. And the firefighters are the pulse of the community. And all my conversations led me, and I made this prediction in July, I think. They were like, nah, man. Well, I bet them all $5 each, and I won that bet. And, that's the thing, though. The Democratic Party, the establishment, the Republican Party, remember, there's the establishment is a duopoly of the Republicans. Trump's not a Republican. Not a Republican. He's Trump. He's MAGA. He's not Republican. Republican is Mitch McConnell, Mitt Romney, Dick Cheney. That's the Republican Party. The duopoly can't survive Donald Trump. So the duopoly is trying to destroy Donald Trump. And Trump's the biggest threat to the American system. And to be honest, if you let the establishment continue doing what it's doing, this country's going to collapse. We're already collapsing. The only chance we have is for someone to take on the establishment. Donald Trump's doing that, but the establishment is now sending all their white blood cells in to kill him.
What's it going to take to get this country back on track?
A revolution. And remember, all revolutions don't have to be violent. I know Thomas Jefferson spoke about, to preserve the tree of liberty, its roots have to be washed in the blood of tyrants on occasion. And I think we have government that is heading in a tyrannical direction. Again, when the U.S. government starts shutting down free speech, it's the end of the constitutional republic, because free speech is that which underpins everything we have as a people. You take that away, we got nothing. And that's the direction the government's going. So there has to be a revolution. But revolutions don't have to be violent. They can also be revolutions of ideas, revolutions of beliefs, of values. And I do think there needs to be a revolution. And that's, I haven't given my vote yet. I don't give my vote away. The one thing I'm saying is you have to earn it. I've said that my number one issue right now is preventing a nuclear war. And I will cast my vote for the candidate that best convinced me that he or she can do that. Donald Trump, though, his campaign's the only one that put out an op-ed piece. I don't know if you saw it. RFK Jr. and Donald Trump Jr. wrote an op-ed piece last week in The Hill that talks about the need to negotiate an end to the Ukrainian conflict and work with the Russians to prevent a nuclear war. Okay, it's not perfect, but it's not bad. It's a start. I'd like to see the Harris campaign come up with something like that if you want to earn my vote. And I'm hopeful that enough Americans will accept, what I say is that the most existential issue facing us right now is nuclear war, because if there is a nuclear, we almost had one last week. I don't know if you know that or not. We came one signature away from triggering a nuclear conflict. All Joe Biden had to do is sign the paperwork that Keir Starmer, the British Prime Minister, put in front of his face on Friday in the White House Situation Room. Had he signed that document, the British were going to work with the Ukrainians to launch Storm Shadow missiles against Russian targets in the Russian interior. And then Russia would have triggered a response, and the cause and effect relationship logically leads to the United States panicking, using low-yield nuclear weapons to escalate to de-escalate. The Russians get hit with a low-yield nuclear weapon. They respond with everything they got, and the world's over. 72 minutes is all it takes from start to finish. And we were 72 minutes away from dying this past weekend. You would have died too, because part of the United States employment plan is that we not only take out the Russian nukes, but we preemptively take out the Chinese nukes. I hope the Chinese people know that we are targeting Trident submarines with the W-76 or the W-76 warhead, 100 kilotons now, but we have a new fusing mechanism, makes it very accurate. One warhead, one silo, one kill. And we're not going to give you a chance to fire yours off. The Tridents get close enough, they fire a depressed trajectory, they hit you within 7 minutes, you're all dead. Hey, welcome to the new world. That's the world we live in right now, where America, has this nuclear tyranny. Fortunately for the world, Russia has a sufficient nuclear deterrence that America can't, at this point in time, carry out a preemptive strike. Plus, Russia has re-looked at its own nuclear employment doctrine, I believe adopting the policy of preemption themselves. So if they think America's getting ready to preempt them, they're going to preempt America, which means we're on a hair trigger alert for nuclear conflict that could easily have been set off by Joe Biden signing the damn document that Keir Starmer put in front of his head. Did you know about that document? Did anybody here know about that document? Were you consulted about that document? You all almost died. You could have all died on Saturday. 72 minutes, start to finish. That's the end of the world, ladies and gentlemen. Read Andy Jacobson's book, Nuclear War as Scenario. She outlines it in great detail. But nobody's aware of that, because that's where we are today. During the Cuban Missile Crisis, everybody alive at that time knew damn well what was going on. My parents were alive. They told me how they stayed glued to the radio, watching the Soviet ships approach the blockade line. Had they crossed it, we had attacked the Soviet ship. The Soviets had submarines that were going to hit our ships with nukes. Then they were going to fire their nuclear warheads at the United States. We'd fire nuclear war. Everybody understood what was going on. Everybody understood the consequences, and they all breathed a sigh of relief. One of the reasons why JFK did what he did to stop the war is because he felt the pressure from the people. Joe Biden doesn't feel any pressure right now. Why? Because nobody's talking about the threat of nuclear war. Russians are bluffing, we're told. They're bluffing. They're not going to do this. They weren't bluffing. Ask Anatoly Antonov, the Russian ambassador to the United States, who had to, on Friday, to prevent Biden from signing it, come out and basically tell America that if there's a war in Europe and it goes nuclear, it doesn't get confined to Europe. We will nuke you too. You will get nuked. And people started calling up, former government officials. You don't really mean that, do you? The president of Russia meant what he said. Don't play with fire or you're going to get burned. And they are the ones that called Jake Sullivan and Tony Blinken saying, don't do it. The Russians aren't bluffing this time. Unfortunately, Biden didn't sign that document. This week in New York, the Ukrainians and the Brits and everybody are pressuring him to sign the document. He comes back, Congress is pressuring him to sign the document. Where are the American people? Are we pressuring them to sign the document? How many American people are calling up Biden and go, do it, do it, do it. I don't want to live, Joe. Do it. No. Americans right now, it's getting the end of September. Hell, I got a garlic festival next week. I got an anti-nuclear war rally next weekend. I want to go visit China in November. I got Halloween coming up. I got Christmas coming. I got family things I want to do. I got life I want to live. I don't want Joe Biden to sign that piece of paper. I don't want to commit suicide for Ukraine. And yet no one's talking about it because that's where we are today. And now you see the attractiveness of a Donald Trump who isn't going to let the establishment create the conditions for national suicide by not consulting with the American people before the president undertakes an action that could lead to the death of everybody.
Absolutely incredible. Last thing, Scott, before I let you go here today, 40 some days before the election, Ukraine is definitely going to be on the calendar here for the next month and 12 days before this election happens. As we get into November, the cold season now in Ukraine, your predictions on or your thoughts on what could happen here in the next month as we march into the presidential election, which is crucial, I think, to this conflict at this time.
Well, it's not crucial. Russia's won, Ukraine's lost. There's nothing that's going to happen to change that unless the whole world gets destroyed. Then we all lose. There's nothing the United States, NATO, Europe, or anybody can do to change this outcome. It's only going to get worse for the Ukrainians. The Russians will probably end up taking out what's left of the Ukrainian power grid. They'll disable the ability to generate electricity from nuclear power plants and distribute it. They'll blow up the rest of the electric generation. They'll blow up gas storage, take down electric power grids. And then the cold months come in, the Ukrainians are going to freeze to death. That's what you get when you decide you want to be a banderist. You're going to freeze to death. And Ukraine's not going to survive this winter. Whatever comes out of it won't be the Ukraine that went into it. It'll be a fundamentally different country. The military is losing equipment and men at a rate far greater than they can replace it. It doesn't matter how many tranches of aid that Europe provides in. All you do is elongate a war that is defined by its attritional properties. And Ukraine is getting chewed up at a rate between 6 to 1 to 10 to 1, meaning for every Russian that's dead or wounded, 6 or 10 Ukrainians you get dead or wounded. The Ukrainians can't sustain this. Their equipment, they're eating through it at a rate faster than it can be replenished. Meanwhile, Russia's defense industry is up and running. They're cranking out equipment. People are volunteering. They are losing men, but they replaced them at a rate far greater than they're. So Russia's getting stronger, Ukraine's getting weaker. And then you bring in the winter and we're heading towards collapse. It's this collapse that creates the desperation, right? That's right now while the West is desperate to come up with something, the silver bullet that'll save the day. And right now the silver bullet is let the storm shadows fly. And normally Russia would just absorb it and say, okay. But the problem is these storm shadows have the ability to hit strategic command and control, strategic, nuclear weapons storage facilities, early warning radars. You see, the reason why Russia doesn't want Ukraine to be part of NATO is just look at a map. Ukraine used to be part of the Soviet Union. Therefore, the Soviet Union's outer boundaries were basically the western border of Ukraine. That meant that anybody attacking had to go through the depth of Ukraine to get to the interior of Russia to strike these facilities. But now, if Ukraine becomes NATO or pro-NATO and NATO forces are deployed, now they're projected deep into the Russian center, and now these strategic places are vulnerable to missiles being launched from Ukrainian soil. This is why Russia, back in December of 2021, told Biden, we will never allow missiles to be on Ukrainian soil. And Biden at first said, okay, yeah. But then when, Blinken went to talk to the Russians in January, the Russians went, remember, no missiles. And Blinken's like, well, we never really said that. The Russians like, well, yeah, you did. Once again, we lied. But so now we have a situation where NATO missiles, Storm Shadows, Scalps, ATACMS, are on Ukrainian soil, in a position to strike deeper inside to Russia. Strategically, it's unacceptable. Russia will never, ever allow this this capability to, to manifest itself. They will make the Ukrainians pay, and they'll make the West pay. If the West wants to attack the interior of Russia using Western weapons that are not only provided by the West, but given the particular technical aspects of targeting for these, require Western intelligence to be transformed into targeting data that only the West can do, and then to be loaded on to the systems by Western hands, because only the West can do it. It's encrypted, which means that as they do all that, they had to know the target in advance, which means they're part of the target selection. So what's happened is NATO is picking a target, enabling Ukraine to fire a weapon that it gave Ukraine at the target. It's a NATO attack on a Russian target. There's no other way to look at it, or an American attack. And Russia has said, if you do that, then you are a party to the conflict, and we will act accordingly. We will strike targets in the territory of the parties to the conflict. And this will lead to an activization of Article 5. NATO will have to get heavily engaged. Russia will respond with decisive power. NATO will panic. The United States will trigger its nuclear employment strategy, which requires the deployment of low-yield nuclear weapons to escalate, to de-escalate, bluff the Russians, say, boom, there's a nuke. Aren't you scared? Back down. And the Russians go, the second you hit us with one nuke, we fire all, and you're all dead. That's where we're at right now. That's where we're headed. That's the reality of this situation. Russia is not going to lose this war. Ukraine is going to lose this war. The West has invested so much political capital into preventing Ukraine from losing and using Ukraine as a tool to bring about the strategic defeat of Russia that politically they can't back away, even though their Western economies are collapsing, et cetera. And so I think you're going to see more and more escalation. Look, and the other thing that we're not talking about, but it is related to this, is BRICS. The BRICS summit is being held in Kazan from 22 to 24 October. BRICS has basically declared an existential struggle against the West. They haven't called it a declaration of war, but you go back to the joint statement issued by Vladimir Putin and Xi Jinping back in February 4th of 2022, prior to the Beijing Olympics. They basically said, we are rejecting the rules-based international order and we are promoting the law-based international order. And ever since then, through BRICS, they've sought to achieve that with expansion of BRICS, and now through what Russia's been doing, the structural reorganization of BRICS, so that it is an establishment in its own right capable of facilitating coordination of policy, joint policy on a consensus-driven basis that confronts the West. If Russia succeeds, it's the end of the West. It's the end of the dollar dominance. That's the end of the G7. It's the end of the European Union. It's an existential issue, which is another reason why the West may seek to disrupt that by expanding the conflict in Ukraine, trying to reach targets like Kazan to disrupt the BRICS summit. We're living a very dangerous time. The consequences of any success on the part of the West that does existentially threaten Russia, the consequences are instant death, 72 minutes nuclear war. That's the only outcome. You can't defeat a nuclear power. And I don't know why we keep trying to do so.
Well, Scott, I appreciate your time and staying on a little bit later with our audience today. I'm going to let you go. I know you got an amazing schedule coming up here for today and for the rest of the week. And we'll see you maybe in a week or so time. I know your schedule is busy. I'll get in touch with you to get you back on the program, and look forward to having you here again. Everybody, you can see there on the ticker below, please visit that webpage. It just keeps getting better and better, that website, by the way. The more I see it, you got lots of stuff on there. It's a one-stop shop. You can pretty much find everything else there. Scott, any other message you want to say to our audience before you head out?
Well, if you're in the eastern United States, anywhere near Kingston, New York, we have a big rally coming up on the 28th in Kingston from 2 to 4. We're going to have Judge Andrew Napolitano talking about free speech. We're going to have Max Bloomberg and his wonderful wife, Anya Parampil, talking about the Middle East and Gaza. We have Gerald Celente talking about, the peace movement in America and democracy. We got some obscure guy named Scott Ritter who will be talking about, how to stop a nuclear war. We have a special guest appearance by Roger Waters, who will be speaking via Zoom, but then also presenting some original music. It's 4 hours. If you can't make it, we're going to be streaming it live. And I would encourage people. We'll be putting out the exact addresses for you to access it. We're going to try and get it on as many different platforms as possible.
Oh, that's great.
Seen. But watch it live. Watch it as it's happening. Or if depending on your schedule, just come back and watch it. But we're doing this to educate and inform as many people as possible about the existential issues that confront us in this election year as Americans. If you're not an American, watch it to learn about what Americans are thinking and the kind of struggles that we're facing. If you are an American, watch it and empower yourself with knowledge and information as we lead up to one of the most critical votes in modern American history. This. They say that about every presidential election, but this one I think is actually the case, because a victory of the establishment condemns us to a slow, lingering death. The victory of the counter-establishment creates the potential for chaos and disruption that might be the only thing able to save the constitutional republic. Either way, it's going to be a difficult time for America, which makes this vote one of the most important ever. Don't give it away to the candidates. Make them earn it. Once you give your vote away, you don't count anymore. I hope everybody understands that in the system. Once you say, I'm voting for Trump no matter what, he doesn't care about you anymore because he has you in his pocket. You already gave yourself up. So, he's going to modify his stance between now and election day in order to get the votes that aren't committed. He's going to go put the oil on the greasy wheel. And the same thing with the Democrats. If you say, I'm voting for Kamala Harris no matter what, she doesn't care about you anymore. She's not going to talk to you because you gave your vote away. She's going to go grease up the greasy wheel. Jill Stein. Okay, you just gave your vote to Jill Stein. Nobody cares about you now. Make them earn it. Make them earn this. Make them work. And that's what the Saturday rally is about. I call it Operation Dawn. It's just 4 simple questions I ask the American public. What would you do to save democracy? Thumb over. Save America. Save the world through your vote in November. Operation Dawn. We even put together a nice challenge coin, Operation Dawn challenge coin, to stop nuclear war. You can get it on scottritter.com and help. The coin put the camera out of focus, but it helps us raise money because Operation Dawn is a campaign. It's not a one-time event. It's it gets kicked off on Saturday, but there's a lot of time between Saturday and November 5th where we're going to put pressure on the candidates to put out policies that convince people to vote for them. And that can only happen if you maintain pressure, and you can only maintain pressure if you have the ability to do that. And you only have the ability to do that if you can afford to do that. And so buy a coin, help us promote this. But that's it. Thanks.
And Scott, I'll also make sure that we get that streaming here on our China platforms as well here to get the voice out here in China. That is a big event. Anyone, if you guys want some information, I will also put on my community tab about this event. So you will get more details about that as well. Visit scottritter.com. Scott, thanks again. I'll stay on with my audience. We'll see you in a few days. Okay. Take care.
Thank you.
Bye for now. Bye for now. Well, everybody, that was Scott Ritter. And I just want to thank the audience once again for spending time with me. I also have a couple of things I want to talk to you about while we stay on this program here. We have another live stream, actually a really good friend of mine as well. His name is Danny Haifong. I'm sure some of my audience know Danny. He's quite an amazing guy. He has a live stream coming up here in a few hours. So you want to maybe check that out. There's his channel there. I think I've got that right. You can see it streaming. Yes, there it is there. I'm going to drop a link right now in my description here. There it goes. And let's see if I can pin it. I don't know if Danny is watching, but if you are, Danny, drop a link there. I'm going to pin it to the top of my chat box there for you guys. Head over to Danny Haifong's channel where the live stream is in about 2 hours. I see it scheduled here for 2. So a little bit over 2 hours right now. It's called The Wider War is Imminent. Hezbollah's Revenge. Israel Ignites Lebanon War in Massive Raid with his guests there as well. Loki and Gandhi Francis as well. So that's a big shout out to Danny Haifong. Go over and check out his live stream. Click on his notification where it says notify me to watch probably some of the best geopolitical talk that you will see on YouTube. Okay, everyone. And I also wanted to thank everyone that donates to my channel. That is really important to keeping this channel going. Reportify Media myself has pretty much funded most of this channel for the last 5 years. We are 217,000 strong. You can see the links in the description with buy me a coffee or anything. All the money that is donated to this channel goes right back into this channel, whether it's equipment, whether it's equipment to help me with live streams or whatever. I guarantee you guys that I invest it back into it. I want to say thank you to all the moderators tonight. And before we head out, I'm very curious where my audience is coming from. Somebody just asked about Angelo Giuliano. Angelo's great. No problem there. He's doing well. Just a busy guy. And everybody give a shout out to Danny Haifong as well, and other channels like the Duran, Patrick Lancaster, Alexander Makuris, Cyrus Jansen. If I'm forgetting some names, my apologies, but I'm trying to remember everything. I want to know where you guys are coming from. Let's have a look here. If you guys could just hit the chat box, let me know maybe what country you're from or what city you're from. We have Shanghai, China in the house tonight. We have India, New York, and also a special thanks to the super chats tonight. They are greatly appreciated, everyone. They do help the channel. I don't even know if I can see them here. I can go back, but anyway, I will send a thank you out to everybody that has supported my channel with super chats. One more time, let's just see where everybody is from. And let me ask you guys this next question. Who do you think is going to win here in November? 1, if you think it's Donald Trump. 2, if it's Kamala Harris. Again, one more time, if you think you have a prediction for November, 1, Donald Trump will win, or 2, Kamala Harris. Let's have a look here in the chat groups here. We still got over 3,500 or 3.2 thousand people in the chats here. Ooh, it's looking like DJT is going to potentially be from you guys here. We've got probably about an 8-2. Yeah. And wow, from all over the world here, Singapore. Anyway, guys, let me know if you want me to end it with some music or a song. And you want to see some beautiful sights here in China. I can fire up that as we say goodbye to you guys. Yeah, we'll go to a nice little goodbye here. Let me just try to find you guys some nice aerial footage here from China. I got to tell you guys, really, it means a lot to me that you guys have supported my channel. Anyway, we'll leave it at that. Actually, we'll cut it now so you guys can head over to Danny Haifong's channel. And thank you guys once again. I appreciate it. Reportify Media here. Take care. We'll see you in the next few days. And I have Gerald Salenti coming up in a program in a few days. I have Patrick Lancaster coming back onto the program in a few days. Anyway, lots of stuff. We'll talk soon. You guys take care. Bye for now.